Hello, everyone. I am Ifeoma. I like to refer to myself as a hobbyist photographer, a self-acclaimed mandala artist. I am a front-end developer and also the chapter lead of View Vixens Nigeria. It's an initiative for women to help women learn front-end frameworks and technologies. So I'll be giving a talk. My talk is on evaluating web applications for accessibility. Evaluating synonyms for evaluating include testing, assessment, appraisal. So we can say testing web applications for accessibility. So testing for accessibility, what is it? What is it about? Everyone knows what accessibility is. It's been a very these days and for a few years now, it's been a very important topic, especially in applications and web development. So testing for accessibility, but testing, what is it? What is it about? So according to W3C organization, web accessibility testing is a subset of usability testing where the users under consideration have disabilities that affect how they use the web. So testing for accessibility is where when we are creating applications for accessibility, we are also considering those who we are creating these products for, these applications, websites. We are also including them into making sure that a website or an application is includes every other person, it covers everybody in a target audience for which that website application is created for, in a way that no one is left out. So when and because my talk is about evaluating web accessibility and the steps to which we do that. I said when measures have been put in place to ensure a website or an application is accessible, testing those measures to ensure they work is of utmost importance. That is why we have to test for accessibility. It's one thing to make sure your application is accessible by everyone, including those who have disabilities. It's one thing to make sure your application is accessible, and it's another thing to test if it works. Because when we are testing if it works, we are making sure that yes, whatever it is we imputed, whatever it is we created, whatever accessibility and test that we created, it doesn't matter how accessible your website is. If you don't test to ensure how accessible it is, you will not be certain of the outcome of the product, of the website, of the application. So that is why we test. We don't just make it accessible and then just dump it there like, oh, I've done this, I've done that, and then just dump it there. We have to make sure that we test that this website works. We are creating this website so that people who can't see screens, or we are creating this application so that people who can't see screens will be able to use this application. And then when you do that, you aren't testing or making sure that you aren't putting any extra effort to test that what you have done to make sure that it works will work. So that is why we have to test. And so why do we test? We test to ensure that your website or application, which is what I just addressed, to ensure that your website or application is accessible to everyone and to make sure that it can be used by all. And then there's accessibility laws set aside in every country. Every country has laws that guide accessibility. And so in order to comply to those laws, we have we make web applications accessible, and then we also have to test them to make sure that they do work. So an example of an accessible website is BBC. This is the BBC.com. It's an accessible website. It can be used by all. Steps to be taken to ensure evaluating for accessibility. So we have tests. There are tests that have to be taken to ensure that the testing for accessibility is done, to ensure that every process is taken. And the first one is creating a plan. You can't start anything without creating a plan. So you have to create a plan, a test plan. Your test plan should contain the methods that should be used while testing, the documentation of the test results. When you have your test results, how you document them, and then the use of those test results to improve your application. So while when evaluating for accessibility, we have there are three methods though. There's manual, hybrid, and automated. The hybrid is a mix of the two. So the main testing methods are manual and automated. Most people would say there are two. So we stick to two, manual and automated. Uh, So we have browser and device testing. It's one of the ways which websites and applications can be tested. It involves testing your application or website across various browsers and devices. When testing for when testing an application for accessibility, it's very easy for us to use, say, we just use our own, we create a website or you create an application, and because it runs on your browser or whatever browser it is you use, it's very easy for us to get carried away and just say, oh, okay, this works on my browser. I presume it will work on every other person's browser. Or because I use Chrome, every other person should be using Chrome. Or because I'm using Chrome on my laptop, then I believe it will work on Chrome for mobile, Chrome for tab. It will have the same. It doesn't work that way. So and there are different devices. A lot of people use different browsers, and devices don't just involve your normal device, just your phones, and we also have devices that are used for devices to be used that are used by those who have disabilities, like screen readers, for example. So all of this, it has all of this. This has to be tested across all these devices. It's very important. Your mobile phone, tablets. Yeah. Then we have the use of validators. Validators are programs that are used in checking the syntactical correctness of code fragments. We have the W3C code validator. The W3C code validator, you input the address of the website which you want to validate, which you want to check, and it helps, brings out the errors, brings out whatever it is that has to be changed, whatever it is that has to be corrected. And we have the heuristics and analysis. It involves a set of modes of testing. This is where we have the automated testing. It involves code reviews and involves automated tests. It involves code reviews and automated tests. For code reviews, to identify problems in the code reviews usually happen like after we are done with building our products, after we are done with creating websites, we are done with creating applications, we use code reviews. The code reviews help us to identify the problems in the code. And usually a code review is done early on finished code. That is you are done with right after you are done with working on your your product. Then we have automated tests, usually done towards the ending of production, and we have tools like Wave API that help with this. There are more tools, but a prominent example is Wave API. Another important another important aspect of testing for accessibility for evaluating web applications is keyboard navigation. It's one thing for your website to be able to work when you are using mouse, or it's easy to be able to scroll, or using a smartphone device, and it's another thing for it to be easily navigated using a keyboard. Not everyone can be able to like use your mouse, or so using keyboard navigation is where we know we must know that not all users of an application or every visitor to a website uses a mouse. This is why ensuring a website should be easily navigated using keyboards is important. This is where we make sure that certain buttons on your keyboard are able to work on your application. If I hit scroll up, that's where keyboard navigation. Usability testing. So we also have usability testing. Usability testing is the practice of testing how easy a design is to use with a group of representative users. That's according to Interaction Design Foundation. So usability testing is where we get participants, people who would be able to use who people would be able to use a website or an application, getting them and then ensuring that they use your application and website, and watching their interaction, watching their flow, interacting with them on how it is that you find the use of that product, that application. So it's very important to conduct usability testing with people who are a huge representative of the target audience for which your application is created for. And then you have to ask them to perform certain tasks based on your product's user goals, your defined user goals. So you have to find participants. You find participants who, when doing usability testing, it's very important to include people with disabilities, people with impairments in the testing group. That way, you'll be able to watch how it is they interact with the website, they interact with the application. And when doing that, there are several things you can look out for. You can look out for the first impressions they have of the website or the application, their initial reactions to the website, what their flow is like, if they have any expectations while using your application, while using your websites, if they have expectations, were those expectations met? Like in terms of the accessibility, are those expectations met? Are they new users or existing users to the website? If they are familiar to the website, and how that affects how they use the website, and also watching how it is they use it, their flow. That is what usability testing is about, basically. So testing with, that's according to Interaction Design Foundation. So testing with people who are the target audience for which the application or website application was created, people who are most likely to use the website. That's what usability testing is. So we have tools that aid in accessibility validation. There are several tools, there are a lot of tools, but these are the ones I picked. We have a checker. These are common tools. A checker, AXE, sort sites, accessibility checker, Wave API, which I mentioned earlier, and Lighthouse. These tools are all a part of the automated testing method. The usability testing method, which I addressed here, is a part of a manual testing method. And automated testing is where we use tools. So there are other steps, which there are a lot more steps which we can use while testing while evaluating for web applications. There are several other steps, but these are the few steps. These are the basic and popular, most important steps I'm taking. Thank you for making out time to listen to me and participating in this conference. I hope I've been able to address the steps to the steps to which the steps for evaluating for web applications. I can be reached at Twitter in case there are questions or just for interaction, like Ifeoma at Ifeoma _N.